stars are burning. Ooh, in another land. But don't start counting. No, don't start counting. Colder and colder, the ice is moving closer and it gets me down. Going round and round and down the same old track, with a pack on my back. I'm moving swiftly nowhere, a heart in my ear, beating like a drum. Where will you go?
Jane.
Right.
There's, you wrote that with a drum rhythm, didn't you?
Drum box. Well, I've done that on quite a few songs of mine, actually, over the years. This is the first time that it's actually gone on a record with a drum box on it. I don't know, with that, I was just trying a lot of different ideas on one rhythm, going through a series of different feels, a lot of which I hadn't sort of explored much before, like the almost sort of reggae feel, which is sort of throughout the song a bit, and then towards the end it sort of changes back to a slightly more traditional feel. But I quite like the idea of swapping between the different rhythms, keeping that one drum rhythm going. And but originally I didn't sort of feel very strongly about having the song as one thing like that, you know, going through a series of about, 8, 9, 10 bits. I mean, I was quite happy to take some bits out of isolation and make a song out of them, but the way the rest of the album was going was very much into songs with one mood in them. Like Abacab tends to stick pretty much in one mood, for example, you know. And so I thought it'd be a nice idea, I think we all did really in a way, to keep this song going through a series of moods, because it would sort of contrast a little bit with the rest of the album. And it would, you know, it would just be, definitely would stand out for that reason. And I think it works, the idea.
I think the advent actually of the drum box in our writing is has been a very positive thing. I mean, like, we all write with drum boxes just purely because if you have a drum box, if you have a rhythm going, you don't play so much. I mean, in the old days, you know, we used to rehearse. I mean, there's 3 walls of sound. There was his wall of sound, there was Tony's wall of sound, there was Steve's wall of sound. We get into a studio and there was no room for the sound, you know. There's me thrashing away as well, and Peter's thick voice. I mean, so now it's like, if you write, you tend to write with the drum box. You leave the spaces because there is a rhythm going.
Also, I think it helps you change them, because in the past, without the drum box, you'd often, well, it's a sort of, we've changed as writers, sort of matured, I think, because we used to stop and start an awful lot in the early days. And yet, if you've got a drum box going, you can actually do that, but the song seems to flow very often more.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it can't work, but sometimes I think it didn't work because we were almost too busy. But the drum box helps you to do that because you can play against it, get the same effect. But it's like the Beatles used to do that actually. Some of their songs used to do all sorts of weird things, the chords and lines above it, but the drums would kind of plough on. Old Ringo would sort of plough on regardless through it. You know, no one told him.
That song, Abacab, actually reveals a lot about the new Genesis, I find, just in terms of...
Well, simplicity, I think. I mean, not that is the new Genesis, but I mean, it's a very typical example of a tune that was, you know, sprung from nowhere. Really, just out of playing in a rehearsal room.
Also, you've got to capture the feeling, because in the past, you know, very often, just the song was arranged technically in such a way that if everyone played the right notes, the song sounded quite good. Whereas now, a lot of songs on Abacab are a lot simpler and rely much more on feel. Unless you capture that, you've got nothing. A good example is Keep It Dark. It actually sounded good in the rehearsal room, but we got in the studio, and there isn't very much on there. I mean, you know, there's the drum track, and Tony's playing the bass part with his left hand. I was playing one riff the whole way through, virtually. And unless you capture some magic or some feeling, it sounds awful. And we had a couple of goes, and it wasn't... got depressed, it wasn't happening, was it?
Right.
And then suddenly we got it one day, you know, we managed to capture it.
And that's actually something we never really did in the past, you see, because of time. I mean, one gets into a situation where you have studios. You book yourself into a studio, and because we were recording in Sweden or recording in Holland, you get 12 days, you do the backing track, you get the best version you do of that day, the backing track, and that becomes the track, that becomes the definitive version of the song. Now we've got our own place, it's, you know, there is no definitive version, really. There is lots of versions of which suddenly, one day, we'll all agree on that is the one. You know, and the same with the mixes, as opposed to spending all day on the mix, you know, going through the whole song. You've heard it so many times, you don't even know what you want it to sound like in the end. It gets to a point where, you know, you lose a bit of, you know, you spent so much time on it, you have to come out with a product at the end of the day. You have to say that is the mix of the song. And this time we went the other way. We just did lots and lots of mixes of the songs. I see it as a very fresh new thing. I'm very excited by them.
Yes, there's certainly, you can hear
I seem to be the only
influences.
one. But I